Hello everyone. In this lecture we are going to discuss about the menstrual cycle. In female, the generation of ova or eggs is called oogenesis process, which we have seen in the earlier lecture, and it starts with the fetal stage. And the oogenesis process will stop after menopause. So in the case of oogenesis, the meiosis which starts before birth will be completed at the time of fertilization. So it takes many years for the single meiosis to complete. So why it takes these many years for this meiosis to complete is what we are going to study. And apart from that, when you just compare the number of male and female gametes produced, you can find lot of variation. In case of the man's life cycle, in the male's life cycle, the number of sperms produced is very high. In each ejaculation itself, there are about 200 to 300 million sperms present. And what we have seen was the spermatogenesis will start with the puberty and will continue throughout the life. But when it comes to the oogenesis process, it will stop with the menopause itself. So if you just calculate the total number of eggs which are released in one total female's life cycle, it will be around 420. So how this number comes, we'll see in the menstrual cycle, which means per each ovary only 210 eggs will be released. But when it comes to the total number of primary oocytes produced, from which actually these eggs are produced, this number is 60 to 80,000 per ovary, which means out of 60 to 80,000 of primary follicles present in the ovary, only 210 are finally going to release the egg. So what happens to the remaining primary oocytes and why they are not actually releasing the eggs is what we are going to discuss in this menstrual cycle. Apart from this, there are other important events that takes place in the uterus that actually supports the development of fetus. So these are all the details which we'll study in this particular topic on menstrual cycle. Now the first thing is in the non-primate mammals, the cyclical events that takes place in the female reproductive system are actually called estrous cycle. The same thing is called menstrual cycle in the case of primates. So the exception is the New World monkeys where the menstrual cycle is absent. But apart from that, in all the primate mammals, menstrual cycle is present. The first menstrual cycle begins at the puberty and it is called menarche. Basically, the menstruation is the breakdown of endometrial lining. So in the uterus, we have seen the endometrial layer, endometrium, in which we have seen the basal layer and functional layer. The thickness of this functional layer will be changing. So in one menstrual cycle, the thickness of the endometrial layer will be increased. And at the end of this menstrual cycle, if the fertilization does not occur, that particular layer will be released. So the breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus. So when it undergoes this particular breakdown, whatever that mucus, tissues, blood and unfertilized egg will be discharged. That particular process is called menstruation or menstrual bleeding is. So one menstrual cycle means whatever the events that occur between two menstruations. So one menstruation occur and again another menstruation occur in the next few days. Here in the case of human beings, it is around 28 days. So whatever the events that takes place between these two menstruations is what menstrual cycle is. So as we have seen in primates, the exemption is New World monkeys, except in that in all the primates you can see this menstrual cycle. So basically menstrual cycle differs from the estrous cycle with respect to the menstruation. In the case of estrous cycle, there is no menstruation. So in the case of the events that takes place in the female reproductive tract in the case of human, the important events takes place in the uterus, ovary, pituitary. So these are the important events that takes place. So in the case of ovary, the cyclical events that takes place are development of follicle. So as we know, primary follicles are present inside the ovary. At the time of puberty, there are primary follicles. The stage of the follicle is primary follicle. So starting with the primary follicle, there will be development of Graafian follicle, and the Graafian follicle will release the ovum in the process of ovulation, and from this remnant of Graafian follicle, corpus luteum is generated, and later it will be degenerated if there is no fertilization. So these particular events will be repeated again in the next cycle also. So the ovarian cycle, that's why it is a cycle. So cyclical events are taking place in the ovary. This is one. In addition to that, in the uterus, the lining of this endometrium is increased and again decreased. So here you can see the thickness is increased, increased, and again it is decreased. So again there is cyclical events that are taking place in the uterus. So cyclical events in the ovary are called ovarian events, ovarian cycle, and cyclical events in the uterus are called uterine cycle. Apart from that, the levels of the hormones released also will be changing. So all these things we are going to discuss in detail in the menstrual cycle part. So when we are studying about the menstrual cycle, we are going to study both ovarian cycle as well as uterine cycle. In addition to that, the cyclical changes in the hormone levels also from anterior pituitary and even ovary. So this is how the menstrual cycle can be represented in a simple way. As we have seen, in case of human female, the duration of one menstrual cycle is around 28 days. It may vary in different women, but the average cycle duration is 28 days. So 1 to 28. So from here to here, it is one cycle is. Now you can see the changes in the pituitary hormone levels. That is, FSH and LH levels are changing. Next, ovarian events, where there will be development of follicle, and in the next cycle again there will be development of another Graafian follicle. And coming to the ovarian events, there will be release of ovarian hormones, there will be release of estrogen and progesterone from that, and again in the next cycle this same release will happen. That is, again there is a cyclical change in these levels also. And coming to the uterine events, the thickness of this endometrial wall is increased and again decreased. So one by one we will just see. Here the total menstrual cycle of 28 days is divided into three different phases. First one is menstruation, where there will be menstrual fluid that is released. There will be bleeding in this particular phase. It is followed by the follicular phase or proliferative phase. And later it will be followed by the luteal phase or secretory phase. So coming to the various phases in detail. The first one is a menstrual cycle, which will actually last for 3 to 5 days. So the duration of this thing is 3 to 5 days. So this is where the endometrial breakdown will occur. The thickness of the endometrial wall will be decreased, which lead to the menses. And the cause for this menstruation is the decreased levels of progesterone and estrogen, particularly the progesterone hormone. The progesterone hormone is the one that actually maintains this increased thickness, the thickness of the endometrial wall. So once these hormones levels are decreased, there will be menstruation, and occur only if fertilization of ovum fails. So if the ovum is fertilized with the sperm, the menstruation will not occur in the next cycle. Absence of menstruation can be an indicator of pregnancy, but sometimes due to stress and other reasons also, the menstruation may not occur. And the follicular phase or proliferative phase will follow this menstruation. So this one you can, if you just take it as 1 to 5 days, from fifth day to the next ovulation, that particular phase is called follicular phase. So fifth day to the ovulation, this particular duration is the follicular phase or proliferative phases. So why it is called follicular phase and why it is called proliferative phase, we'll see. First thing is, under the influence of this follicular stimulating hormone, the development of follicles will occur. So as we have seen earlier, in the chemical coordination part, the follicular stimulating hormone, which is having the membrane receptor in the ovarian cell membrane, will bind with that, and it will release some second messenger that lead to some biochemical and later physiological responses. So here the physiological response in this particular case is ovarian growth, that is primary follicle will develop into Graafian follicle. This is what the stimulation of FSH will be. That is, stimulation by the FSH will be on the ovary. Next, from here you can see estrogen hormone is released from this ovaries. So when FSH is stimulating the ovaries, the follicular development is taking place. Now, these developing follicles are releasing estrogen hormone. This estrogen hormone will stimulate the uterine development. That's what shown here. Actually, estrogen is one steroid hormone. Therefore, it is having intracellular, or actually in this case, a nuclear receptor. So this is where the receptor is. So this is the hormone is. So this one will directly affect the transcription and translation process, that is gene expression. Therefore, here the physiological response will occur. Now here the tissue growth and differentiation is what the physiological response is. That is, when estrogen is levels are increased, the estrogen can stimulate the development of uterine wall, that is endometrial wall. Now, the reason why this particular phase is called follicular phase is there is development of follicles. And the reason why it is considered as proliferative phase is there is proliferation of this endometrial wall. So with respect to the follicular development, it is follicular phase, and with respect to the uterus endometrial wall thickness increase, it is proliferative phase. Now there will be ovulation on around on the mid of this menstrual cycle on 14th day. It may vary as we have seen. So here, when you just consider if the ovulation is taking place on the 14th day, this ovulation is actually because of the sudden increase in the levels of LH and FSH. Particularly, LH surge induces the Graafian follicle and the release of ovum, that is ovulation process. So LH surge, the sudden increase in the LH levels, is the reason for the ovulation. Now, during this ovulation, just before the ovulation process, the Graafian follicle, which is present in the cortex of this stroma, will rise to the surface and rupture. Therefore, the ovulation will occur. The secondary oocyte is released into the peritoneal cavity. So, as we have seen, the ovulation, in the process of ovulation, it is not the ovum that is actually released, it is actually the secondary oocyte which is released, because the second meiotic division, that is meiosis 2, is not yet completed. It will complete only at the time of fertilization process. Now once released, the ovum viability can be about 2 days. Next, this ovulation is followed by the luteal phase or secretory phase. Here, whatever the remnant of the Graafian follicle is there, this is the remnant of Graafian follicle, it will develop into one yellow colored mass called corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is the one that actually secretes the progesterone hormone. So you can see, whenever the corpus luteum is synthesized, produced from this remnant of Graafian follicle, then there is increased levels of progesterone. So this one releases the progesterone hormone, that's why it is increased. Later, if the fertilization does not occur, that is if the fertilization fails to occur, the corpus luteum will undergo regression and will form corpus albicans, and later it will degenerate. Next thing is, during this particular phase only, the uterine wall, the endometrial wall thickness is already increased, and it will continue to increase because of this progesterone also. Now this uterine wall will start secreting nutritious fluid, which is important for the fetus. That is the reason why this particular phase is also called secretory phase, as there is secretion of nutrient fluid from this endometrial wall. And it is called luteal phase because corpus luteum is produced. So formation of corpus luteum is actually luteinization. The hormone which is responsible for this luteinization is luteinizing hormone. So the follicular stimulating hormone's important function is stimulating the development of follicle, luteinizing hormone for the ovulation and for the development of corpus luteum. Now, when you just look into the overall process, what we have discussed so far, under the influence of gonadotropin releasing hormone, see this is the hormone which is actually produced from the hypothalamus. This acts on the pituitary and will make the pituitary to synthesize these hormones. So these both hormones are actually anterior pituitary hormones, FSH and LH. So together they are called gonadotropins because they are acting on the gonads, both in the case of male as well as female. Now, when FSH is produced from this anterior pituitary, this acts on the ovary and will make the development of follicles. That's the reason why it is called follicular stimulating hormone. So you can see next the LH levels are increased. The LH surge will cause the ovulation to occur, and later it makes the development of corpus luteum. That's why this hormone is called luteinizing hormone because it makes the formation of corpus luteum. Now, when this follicular development is taking place under the influence of FSH, as we know, the follicular cells will secrete estrogen hormone. Therefore, the estrogen hormone levels are increased. This estrogen hormone will cause the uterine wall development. That is, endometrial wall thickness will be increased. Now, a corpus luteum will secrete estrogen as well as progesterone. So, estrogen is secreted as well as progesterone is also secreted by that. Therefore, the increased levels of progesterone and estrogen can be seen. Now, these hormones will maintain this endometrial wall thickness. Particularly, the progesterone hormone is required for the maintenance of this endometrial wall thickness. So when progesterone levels are maintained, this wall thickness is maintained. Now, once this corpus luteum is degenerated, when the fertilization fails, then the levels of progesterone hormone will be decreased and therefore menstruation will occur. Therefore, the decreased levels of progesterone hormone are responsible for the menstruation to occur. So this is how the menstrual cycle will occur. So in the menstruation, this is where the menstruation is taking place. So menstruation is the result of decreased levels of progesterone. Follicular phase is the development of Graafian follicle, and it is proliferative phase because there is proliferation in the endometrial wall thickness. Now, luteal phase because corpus luteum is developed after ovulation from the remnant of Graafian follicle, and it is secretory phase because there is a secretion from endometrial wall, which is actually required for the fetus. Now, what is the period for the fertilization to occur? That is, whether all the copulations, all the inseminations lead to fertilization. is one of the important question here. So the chance of fertilization, when you just look into that, will be more between the 10 to 17 days of the menstrual cycle. That is, this particular phase is actually called fertile period. So we'll look into this particular aspect in detail. So as we have seen, the ovulation, for example, if taking place on the 14th day, if insemination is taking place on say the 11th day, see here I have shown for 10th day. So if the insemination is taking place on the 10th day and ovulation is taking place on the 14th day. Now when you just consider the sperm's viability, the viability of the sperm is from 2 to 5 days. So if I just take it as 3 days, so this is where the sperm viability is. If the sperm is not viable or if absent at the time of ovulation, there will not be fertilization. But there is always variation in the ovulation process. So it may not occur always on the 14th day. So if I just take it as a plus or minus 2 days from this 14th day, and if the ovulation may occur on this day, then the sperm will be viable on the 13th day. Therefore, there is a possibility of fertilization. So considering the sperm's viability after insemination and the ovulation, the deviation in this time period for this ovulation, 10th day, right, up to the 10th day, it can be the fertile period. That is before 14th day. Now, if the insemination is taking place on say 16th day, ovulation is taking place on the 14th day itself. Now, we have to consider the viability of the ovum. The ovum will be viable for around 2 days. Now, if the insemination occur and by the time of insemination, if the viable ovum is still present, then there is a possibility of fertilization. So considering all these factors, the 10 to 17 days of time is actually considered as fertile period. So there are maximum chances for the fertilization between 10 to 17 days. So in one of the birth control method, that is the contraceptive method, this is actually used as one natural method. So avoiding coitus in this particular period can avoid pregnancy. So this aspect we'll see in the human health part later. Now coming to the overall regulation of the menstrual cycle, here hypothalamus, as we have seen, will release the gonadotropin releasing hormone. It will enter into this hypophyseal portal system and will stimulate the release of FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary. This FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, act on ovary and make the development of follicles. When the follicular development is taking place, there will be increased levels of estrogen. This estrogen hormone can act on uterus and will make the increased thickness in the endometrial wall. Now coming to the LH, luteinizing hormone, it can cause the ovulation as well as the development of corpus luteum. From corpus luteum, progesterone hormone is secreted. This hormone is important for the maintenance of this endometrial wall thickness. So estrogen, progesterone, both are required for the maintenance of this increased thickness and the maintenance of this endometrial wall. This endometrial wall is the one where actually the implantation will occur. So without this increased endometrial wall thickness, implantation cannot occur and pregnancy cannot be possible. So these two are required for this later fertilization, implantation and other events to take place. So in addition to this particular function, they may show the feedback inhibition also. That is, when levels of estrogen and progesterone are increased beyond a particular value, they can show feedback inhibition on anterior pituitary as well as on hypothalamus, which makes the decreased release of FSH and LH. That is, they will inhibit the secretion of FSH and LH from this anterior pituitary. So there is feedback regulation due to these two hormones. Now, one of the important application of this particular knowledge is when more number of eggs have to be generated. Now, when you just see the number of eggs produced in this earlier case, there are two ovaries. Pair of ovaries are present. Now, when one Graafian follicle is developed, as this estrogen and progesterone hormones are levels are increased and they are showing the feedback inhibition, they will not allow the further development of follicles. That is, in one menstrual cycle, only one ovulation can occur, usually from only one ovary, either left ovary or right ovary. Only one Graafian follicle can release ovum, that is, ovulation can occur only in one Graafian follicle. This is possible because of this feedback inhibition. Now, when this FSH hormone is given in excess to one woman, now it can cause further development of Graafian follicles, as this particular feedback inhibition failed. It's not actually failed, but we are increasing the FSH levels to increase artificially. So in that case, now if I give this FSH hormone in excess through injection or whatever it is, it can cause super ovulation, that is, many ovulations to occur in a single cycle. This is helpful in the case of animal breeding for getting more number of eggs for the fertilization in the breeding experiments, or maybe in the case of in vitro fertilization in human, more number of eggs are required. So there also we can use this particular knowledge. Next, when progesterone and estrogen hormones levels are increased, they will inhibit the release of these gonadotropins. This particular aspect can be used as a contraceptive. So when progesterone and estrogen hormones are given to one woman, then they'll show the feedback inhibition on this anterior pituitary. Therefore, there will not be release of these hormones, and there will not be ovulation. So these hormones will be used, will be given in the form of pills or maybe implants or maybe intrauterine devices. So in all these ways, where they can be used as contraceptives. Now, other important terms related to this menstrual cycle are, first thing is amenorrhea, where A is without, right? Menorrhea is menstruation. Amenorrhea means no menstruation, that is without menstruation or simply absence of menstrual cycle. Now, when I say hypermenorrhea, again menorrhea is menstruation, hyper is excessive. So excessive or prolonged menstruation is called hypermenorrhea. And dysmenorrhea is a painful menstruation. And lactational amenorrhea is one condition where, again, if you see the term, amenorrhea is absent of menstruation. Lactational means during intense lactation, the menstrual cycle will be absent. That is, after the parturition, when the mother is actually having intense lactation, producing excess amount of this milk, at that time menstrual cycle will be absent. That particular condition is called lactational amenorrhea. This is also one of the important contraceptive method. The reason for this lactational amenorrhea is the prolactin hormone, which is produced from the pituitary again, anterior pituitary again. The levels of this particular hormone will be increased after parturition process. So the function of this prolactin is it will induce the corpus luteum and suppress LH secretion. That is, luteinizing hormone secretion will be suppressed. Therefore, it will prevent ovulation. So as we know the importance of LH in ovulation, so it will prevent the LH secretion, therefore the ovulation process. That is the reason why it is also called a luteotropic hormone. So these are all some important things regarding the menstrual cycle. Right, now coming to the first question, that is how there are 420 eggs released in one woman's life cycle. Now, as we have seen, the menstrual cycle will start with the puberty. So let me just take 15 years for our just calculation purpose. So at the 15th year, the adolescence is attained. That is the first menstrual cycle occur, and it will continue up to menopause. The menopause usually occur at the age of 50. Just for again calculation, it may vary. So now when I just take 50 minus 15, that is 35 years. So for 35 years in the total female's life cycle, she is fertile. Now in each menstrual cycle, only one ovary is releasing one egg, which means 35 into 12. This is the total number of eggs produced in one female's life cycle in fertile period. It is 420. In this, now when I just take per one ovary, this is for two ovaries. Per one ovary, I have to take it as 2 months once. Therefore, it is by 2. Therefore, it is 210. So this is the number of eggs produced in the female is very limited when compared to the spermatozoa produced in the case of male. So thank you very much.